Hey everybody, it is Stephanie here with Infernal TV, and I'm here with Sébastien Croteau. So how are you?
I'm fine. I'm a little bit busy, but it's quite all right.
Our little bit busy is better than just sitting around doing nothing, right?
Yeah, even during a pandemic, I'm able to keep busy, so I think it's a good thing.
Awesome. So, well, in case any of the listeners here don't know who Sébastien is, he is the vocalist of Montreal-based band Necrotic Mutation, and he is also... Are you the founding member of La Fabrique de Monstres?
We are three co-founding member, actually.
Oh, well, he is one of the three co-founding members of La Fabrique de Monstres, or the Monster Factory, which is the name in English, and that is a company that video game makers can hire different, I guess we'll talk more about the process, but overall video game creators can find different voiceover and sound effects professionals, just like Mr. Sébastien over here, to do voiceovers and everything for video games. But first, let's ask about your background as a metal vocalist. So how did you get into doing vocals?
Well, the thing is, I've started pretty early to sing. Actually, when I was 7, I was singing in a choir.
Ooh.
7, 8 years old, yeah. That was my first grasp at singing. And then I went to a public school, because first I was going to a Catholic school, and then I went to a public school, and there were like a lot of people listening to different style of music that was not Catholic music. And then I got hooked on a lot of different stuff at first. I was listening to oldies but goodies, Michael Jackson and stuff like that. And then I went on pretty quickly to stuff like Iron Maiden because I was intrigued by the cover. I didn't know about the music, but the cover of all the album, I was intrigued, so I wanted to listen to that. And then one of my friends made me discover Metallica. And then it went on pretty quickly from Metallica to Sepultura to Slayer, and then right after that to Napalm Death, Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation. And it's around that time in 1991 that I started. I come from a small town. It's called Rimouski. It's in the eastern part of Quebec, and a lot of kids actually were listening to metal. And one of the things I used to do is I was trying to imitate the voice of metal singers. So it started, I was in a party and we put some music on and I was trying to imitate one of the voices. And then after a few months, I got not good, but I got quite all right. And one of my friends actually heard me, and he was looking for a vocalist for his band, and he asked me to audition for them. So I went to the audition, and I got the part, and it was crazy because I was like 15 years old, and I was singing in my first band, and the first band was called Cervical Slot, SLOT. It's important to specify. And then after our first demo, my drummer broke his leg.
Oh no!
Yeah, so we had no future, and we were lucky because one of the band that were really well known in Rimouski was called Necrotic Mutation, and they were actually looking for a singer and a guitarist. So me and my friend was actually the guitarist. He asked me, "Oh, I'm going to audition for Necrotic Mutation. Would you like to come with me? I think you'll probably be, good in that." So I went to the audition. It was 1993, and I got the job right away because after a year and a half, my vocals were starting to get better. So I sang in Necrotic Mutation from 1993 up to 2000, and then we took a long break, and then we started back in 2018.
Nice. And how did you get started doing voiceovers for video games?
Well, actually, it's because was in around 95, 96, I think, with Necrotic Mutation, I started listening to a lot of different stuff, like Tibetan throat singing, Tuvan throat singing, Inuit throat singing, and then I started to get into throat singing and playing a bit with my voices with those different voice techniques. And then one of my friends actually was, I met at the time, I was friend with a rock band that we played a couple of times with, and he went to work for Ubisoft in Montreal, and he knew I was able to do like metal singing, but I was also able to do different types of voice effect. So he told his the voice designer the game he was working on that and he was looking for new sounds, because most of the sound even nowadays are made with animal noises, and then was looking for a human voice to do the creatures in the video game. So he asked me, and then I went there. He showed me the artwork for the creatures, and I got a few ideas, and it clicked. We had a good connection. So after a few months, when it was the time to record the creature, he invited me to the studio, and I did the creature, and that actually was the first game I did. It was in 2005, and it was Far Cry Instinct, and it was released on Xbox, the first one.
Wow. Wow, so you were the real OG.
Yeah, and then, the funny thing is, right after that, they called me again like a few months after, and they didn't tell me, because there's a lot of secrecy with video game, that there's a lot of non-disclosure agreement and stuff like that we have to sign, and we don't get to talk about it. And so they didn't tell me about what they wanted me to do. So I went to the studio, and when I arrived, there was a guy doing voices, and the image right in front of me was Ezio in Assassin's Creed 2. And I was like, what the hell? There's no creature in Assassin's Creed. What they want me for? And then they told me, because in Assassin's Creed, the guy has a poison blade. So when he poisons somebody, the person has to choke on his saliva and on, if somebody's choking when it's poisoned. So they wanted me to do the voice effect for that. So that actually was my second game, Assassin's Creed 2, and then right after that, I did Prince of Persia when they reboot the franchise.
Interesting. So how did you and your other two co-founders get the idea of the Fabrique de Monstres?
Well, actually, we founded it in 2018, but the idea came, before that, because once company, in Montreal knew about the fact that metal singers could do voices for monsters, at one point, I had to get other metal singers to do stuff with me, because, myself, I can do probably 7 or 8 creatures, but when there's a game that there's probably 10, 15, or 20, I can't do them all, because all the creatures would sound the same, and it's not interesting. So at that point, I asked a couple of my friends. I remember one of the first I asked was Marie-Hélène Landry, the singer of Obsolete Mankind. And she did Prince of Persia with me. And then after that, I got a few other people. One of the co-founder, we met. Actually, I needed voice for a video, for a movie that was on Sci-Fi, which is Helix. That was a series. So I asked Corinne to come with me to do the voices, and then it grew. From time to time, I had to add different people. So, like I said, the idea has been there for a long time, but we decided to regroup as a collective only in 2018. But right now, we are 16 people doing that.
Wow. So, how would the process work? Like, if a video game company is interested in, hiring you or one of your other the members or the vocalists, will they contact you and say exactly what they want, or can they select one person in particular? Or
well, before we had the website, like I said, I work for a lot of different companies. I was lucky enough to do AAA games and stuff like that. So they know my name, and they know that I'm a good provider of of people who can do voices for creature. So usually they call me and they ask me if I have any idea of who could do, troll voices, zombie voices, or whatever creature they have. And I know because one of my other hat that I wear sometimes is I'm working for a company called Signal Space Lab. And there I'm the voice director for voice sessions for monsters. And I'm also responsible for the casting. So when I work there, usually what I receive, it's an Excel sheet, and I have the visual of the creature. I have all the sound that needs to be made. And since I know all the people I'm working with, it's pretty fast between receiving that and choosing who can do the voice. And then right after that, it's probably 4 or 5 days later, we're in the studio and we're recording. So when I'm wearing that hat at Signal Space Lab, I just receive an Excel sheet and I do the casting myself. And evidently I choose from all the people that I'm working with to do the voices. With the website, what we wanted to do is I wanted to take me out of the equation because sometimes it's a lot of work, and we really wanted to build something that people in the video game industry and the movie industry could go on the website, look at the experiences on the movies or the video game people have worked on, and listen to the voice of the people on the website and contact them directly without me being involved. It doesn't mean that I still receive phone calls and I still have to choose people, but the goal of the website is really to make sure that the video game company can contact directly the person, the person who has a profile on our website.
Awesome. And I saw online that you all had an ad in Times Square. So how were you able to achieve that? That's amazing.
Well, some magician might say it's not a good thing to reveal their trick.
All right, fair enough.
To the public, but in what I do as a job, because this is a job also, but it is not full time. I work for a company called Cision, and the company called Cision is a company that probably all the government here in Canada and probably a lot of it in the U.S. Every time you issue a press release, the press release goes from point A and then it goes to a service provider, which is usually Cision, and we actually format the press release to a certain standard and then we send it to the journalists. So I'm working for a company who has offices all around the world, who has a lot of lists of journalists and stuff, and we have also packages that we can buy pictures and ads from different places. And I thought it was a good idea to be on Times Square. That is, so I just revealed my secret.
All right, well, I'm sure now everybody's going to be getting their bands ads and whatever else in the middle of Times Square.
Yeah. Well, they can call me at 514. Now I'm joking.
All right, well, and now I do have a question for all the members that you have on the Metal Factory. Because from what I looked, it looked like, if not all, but most of them were Montreal or Quebec-based vocalists. Well, first, if that's the case, then why have you picked local vocalists? And if maybe in the future, if you'd be willing to expand to have vocalists from all over the world join Metal Factory.
Well, actually, the situation in Montreal is pretty unique. Here we have all the big video game studios, all the major movie companies that come here to film motion pictures. There's not a lot of places in the world that you can have the right mix of all the video game companies and also the what I call the source of our creation, the metal vocalists. We are actually quite lucky in the whole of Quebec, but in Montreal, to have such amazing metal singers, especially death metal singers, because most of the vocalists I'm working with are death metal singers. And it's difficult to work with people outside of Montreal because they don't get access to the studio, because most of the video game companies, when you do stuff for them, they actually want you to record in their studio. So it's pretty easy when you're in Montreal to go to, for example, Ubisoft in their studio. It's right there. But if I had to ask for an example of somebody from, I don't know, the north of Quebec, of Winnipeg, to come in Montreal, that would cost a lot in terms of travel expenses and stuff like that. So that's why we've been working mostly with people who actually live in Montreal. And do I want to expand in the future? Probably. I know not a lot, but I know of a few other metal singers that actually are doing voiceover for a video game. Travis of Cattle Decapitation has been doing a few. And I know of the Mike Patton. It's not classified as a death metal singer, but is still an awesome singer. He has done quite a few also. But yeah, the thing is, I've started to expand a bit. I'm not gonna lie, for the next game, the game that I'm working on, I went outside of Canada to be able to have voices that we wanted for a game. But that's actually a first. But like I said, it's because the company wants us to record in their studio because they have all the equipment. They have $1 million equipment in their studio, and people don't have that at home. So if we were to work with people that have their home recording studio, it would not be the same sound quality as if we recorded in $1 million studio.
Nice. Makes sense. And something else I've noticed about some of the vocalists you have is there's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of men, but there's also a lot of women. Like you mentioned Mahia Len earlier. What is the importance of diversity when it comes to something like voiceovers and everything?
Well, actually, it's unfortunately it's still a man's world. Most of the creatures that we have to do are usually male, but it's changing a bit, because we have more and more. Sometimes we need only a female voice actor voice actresses to do to do some creature, but usually most of the creature are male. And in some cases, we can hire a female vocalist and ask her to do some voices, and it can be, people can hear it and can say, okay, yeah, they don't know if it's a man or a woman, but usually, for people who has been playing video games or are doing video games, they know the difference. I remember one time I was working. I'm still working there, but I was working for Signal Space, and I needed a male to do a voice for a creature, and there was none available. So I asked one of my friends, I'm not going to say her name, but it was actually a female, and asked her to do a man voice. And the company, because we've been working with the company for 4 years, when they heard the voice, they knew it was a female vocalist. And it's pretty hard to tell, but they knew. So that was the only time I tried to make someone pass as someone else, voice-wise. But yeah, most of the creature we have are men, but nonetheless, I wanted to have a crew that is diverse, and we're lucky because we have 8 voice actors and 8 voice actresses. We have the same number of men and women in the and they all have their unique voice quality, and so for me, it's better to have more and to be able to choose from whatever you want. As when you're a video game, you want different voice textures. So in case we have a game and all the creatures are female, then we'll be ready.
That's awesome. So, and now I feel like especially metal vocalists, they kind of get, or people give metal vocalists a hard time because it's always like, quote unquote, it's just a bunch of screaming. But people don't realize that a lot goes into, doing metal vocals and doing them properly because, want to damage your voice and to achieve all the different sounds, all the different pitches and everything. So what do you have to say to those people who just say, oh, metal's just a bunch of screaming?
Well, first, they don't know what they're talking about. I know it's hard to conceive for those people that there's actually a voice technique behind what we do. Because screaming is something that comes natural to us. Even babies, when you're a baby, you're crying, you're screaming. When you don't have any words, you're like...
You did that really well, by the way. It sounds like a baby.
So it's screaming. And then when we're angry, we're screaming at people. And it doesn't require a vocal technique, So I think a lot of people, when they think about screaming as a voice technique, they tend to they tend to mix it with what they actually know about screaming, and it doesn't require any technique. But you know what? I was lucky enough, like I said, when I was learning throat singing, I went to a hospital in Montreal with a Tibetan monk and with throat singers, and we were 2 death metal singers, and we had camera. And it was in 1997, and when camera inserted in our throat to actually film and look at how we could produce those sounds. And the funny thing is, what they've learned from those camera and the sound clip we did is that metal singing, the voice technique for metal or death metal, and the voice technique for Tibetan throat singing and Inuit throat singing are quite similar.
Wow.
They're actually, when you're listening to a Tibetan monk or a Tuvan throat singer, when you hear them, you actually think that their voices are low. They're singing low because you're hearing like, oh, a voice like that, and it's quite low. But it's actually a magic trick. It's a technique. You have to make your vocal cords vibrate, in 2 different sections. Because there's actually the normal. When you are speaking and whatever you are singing, the vocal cords go have one move that they do, and then after that, when you do the throat singing technique of the Tibetan monks, it actually creates what we call a subharmonic, which is a note below the note that you're singing. So when I do oh, this is the sound that I'm singing. Oh, but this is not the sound that you're hearing when I'm doing the technique. Oh, this is the sound you're hearing. And like I said, it's actually a subharmonic. So it's a note that we produce that it's below the note that we're singing. And what we discovered at that time was that male singers were actually doing the same thing. They were producing a note below the note that they're singing. So from that time, for me, that male voice technique was actually a throat singing technique because it's based on the same principle. It's you sing and you produce a note, a sound that is lower than the first sound that you're doing. And of course, we use it differently. Tibetan throat singers and Inuit throat singers, they use it differently. But when you look at the technique, it's basically the same. It's based on the same principle. So for the people that think it's only screaming, I would repeat exactly what I just said.
So whenever any of my family members say, "Oh, why do you listen to metal? It's just a bunch of screaming," I'm showing them this interview.
well, you know, the funny thing is, I'm lucky enough. I went on a few times on national television here in Quebec, and one of the times I was explaining actually how it was done, and a lot of people, a lot of their comments under the article and the video was like, okay, I thought it was just a bunch of people screaming, and now I know that there's a real voice technique behind what they do, and I don't like it much, but I have much more respect for that because I know it's not just a bunch of mumbo jumbo voice effect. You know?
Right. Nice. That's awesome. So now let's go into Necrotic Mutation. I know you're all working on some new material, so feel free to share, anything that you want with what fans can expect.
Well, actually, like I said, we took a long break from 2018, and when we came back, because actually there's been a lot of mutation in Necrotic Mutation. There's been a lot of different era and, different people. And when we came back in 2018, we came back with the first drummer, the first bassman, but also with a bunch of people from what I can call the last mutation at that time. It was Eric Jarin from Despise Icon, who actually played in Necrotic Mutation before, Steve Poirier, and La Charité. And they were playing in the last mutation in 2000, around 2000. So when we did a comeback, we were lucky enough to have the first drummer of the band and the first bassman to do a comeback with us. And then after that, well, the people from were playing with us around 2000. We did a couple of shows. That was awesome. But since Eric is really busy with the Spice Icon and with all the other projects, he could not, continue with the band. So at that point, we decided to find a new guitarist, and a guy that I know from like 20 years back, Yann Thiel, was playing actually Neuraxis and is playing with Obsolete Mankind. So we asked him to join us. So he did. And then right after that, we had one guitarist. We actually had a baby. So he had to take care of his family. So we needed another guitarist. And so Jan asked his good friend Rob Miley to actually be part of the band. So it's a total new mutation with new members and old members. So the music is... That's why I took my time to explain the different mutation, because the music is influenced by those people who actually are in the band. And, we still play kind of old school death metal, but we also have the new flavor of people like Ian and Rob, who actually can do a lot of different things. They're old school death metal too, but they can do a lot of melodic stuff. They can do like a lot of different types of metal, acoustic metal and different. So it's going to be a mix. The new song of old school and a bit of something melodic and stuff like that. It's always hard to describe what your music is gonna sound like. It's like describing your baby before it's even born. But fan from Necrotic Mutation for back in the days, they will like it, and I think we're gonna be able to have add a lot more new fans to Necrotic Mutation because of the musical flavor that Rob and Yan are bringing to the band now.
Nice. And I know you can't say a lot about your future video game projects, but feel free to tease or give whatever information you can.
Oh my God! I've been working on many projects from 2005. I've done around 20-something video games, one TV series, and 2 movies. And the project I'm working on right now, I'm so lucky because it's the first time that we get to actually work months in advance on the voices that we want to do. Like I said, usually it's pretty last minute. That it's like, you get a call and 2 weeks after you're in the studio. And most of the time, creatures and monsters, they don't have dialogue. It's mostly grunts and stuff like that. They don't say words. Or when they do, we have to invent the words right there in the studio. Sometimes they ask me, okay, the monster has to cast a spell. Can you do something for that? So we have to invent, and the project I'm working on right now, it is the first that we have the time to actually write those things and create kind of new languages for the creatures and monsters that we are doing. So it's quite unique from what we're used to, and it's also the first, contract as the Monster Factory. Because before that, we've been, doing a lot of stuff, here and there with different people. But right now, it's all the creatures and aliens and whatever monster there is. It's going to be probably not all of them, but most of them are going to be done by members of the Monsters Factory. And it's for a huge company, and I would like to say the name, but I can't. And I have to wait probably like 6 to 8 months before being able to tell people that we've been working on this game. But yeah, that's going to be, for me, the most amazing project that we have voice-wise. And then there's a second one, which is also huge, but we have actually quite a small role in there, and I'm still waiting for the company to call me back because of the pandemic, this things slowed down a bit. People working from home and having access to the studio is still quite difficult. But we have 2 big ones, and one is bigger than the other, and it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to talk about it. That's the most that I can say.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we will. I'm definitely looking forward to finding out what's been keeping you busy, and I'm sure everybody else is too. And so this is the last question. You can say anything you want. You can promote, the Monster Factory or whatever.
Well, actually, when we released the website for the Monsters Factory, we did a video called Horde, which is kind of a choir of a zombie horde, where like 16 people in the Monster Factory were in one small studio together, and we did a zombie horde. It's a short clip, 2 minutes 15, so you can go on our website and look at it. We also have a YouTube channel, and on the YouTube channel, most of the voices that we did in video games are there. We actually played all the games that we did, and we capture footage from the game with our voices in it, so you can actually you can hear voices we did like in Thief and Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed. It's all there. And well, in 2 days from now, we're going to be releasing the making of the first video we did, because it's something to hear or to look at a zombie choir, but it's another thing to learn how we make it. And that's most of the people. It's funny because most of the people are interested by, okay, it's a good sound, but how did you do it? So we're going to release the making of in 2 days, and there's a documentary on the way also, almost hour-long documentary on how we do what we do. So that's the thing to expect. And as for Necrotic Mutation, well, with the pandemic and stuff, there's actually no show, so we're focusing on new music right now. But it's not going to come out until the end probably of 2021. But hey. So that's basically it. Yeah, we have a website, a Facebook. We are also on Twitter and YouTube. So look for us, The Monster Factory, but actually it's La Fabrique de Monstres.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this interview. Just like Sébastien said, La Fabrique de Monstres, or The Monster Factory, is a new company, and video game creators, movie makers, whoever can find different voice actors and actresses. And Sébastien is, well, not only is he a metal singer, but he's also a throat singer. So, yep. So, and his band Necrotic Mutation, they all have a lot of really awesome things planned, new music, new members, awesome stuff. So, I will put everything in the description of the video, the Horde video that Sébastien described, their YouTube channel, all their social media, the website. So, yep, you can check all of that out. And thank you again for listening, and stay metal, everybody.